Some are handheld, carried by pilgrims on their travels, whereas others stand proud outside monasteries and temples, powered by the elements. The prayer wheel is an integral part of the Buddhist faith and has been described as a symbolic marker of Tibetanness. While some ridicule them as an uninspiring human attempt to mechanise the act of prayer, I believe that they are a fascinating creation, unlike any other sacred instrument, that have a much deeper spiritual value and purpose than it appears at first glance. Inside the prayer wheel is a rolled up piece of paper on which a Buddhist prayer or mantra is written. When the prayer wheel is spun, prayers are sent out. Spinning a prayer wheel provides all the same benefits as you would obtain from reading the respective prayer or mantra. As eloquently put by Gung Pa, when a mantra is read, light rays are emitted that purify the consciousness and all the obstacles to enlightenment. Enlightenment is the goal of all Buddhists, being a unique mental state that is characterised by complete separation from the material world. This podcast will be centred around 3 key questions. The first will attempt to uncover the prayer wheel's provenance. The second will briefly consider why the prayer wheel has been so neglected by academic commentators, given it has been such an integral part of Buddhist prayer for many centuries. The third, and most detailed theme, will consider whether its design reflects the key principles of Buddhism. Where and when did prayer wheels originate? The answer to this question is a mystery. Dan Martin's article on the origin and significance of the prayer wheel features the translation and summary, respectively, of 2 pieces on prayer wheels by monastic teachers of Buddhism, Gung Pa and Sen Chen Blama. These works leave us with many questions regarding the when and how of their invention. Both authors have identified sources from the mid-13th century that contain references to so-called Dharma wheels, which are the larger wheels that would be powered by the elements, for example, wind, rain, or steam. Furthermore, it is unclear whether they were introduced to Tibet from India or from perhaps China, or if they were originally devised in Tibet. However, Valerie Reynolds claims that they are almost certainly a native invention, as there is no evidence of their use in Indian Buddhism. Marion Winder suspects that the idea for the large prayer wheel came from the Chinese invention of the octagonal revolving bookcase, which would hold all of the volumes of the word of the Buddha together. This was known as the Tripitaka. Now, looking to the Oriental Museum's handheld prayer wheel, I have been unable to establish precise dates and location of its acquisition, primarily because the information in the archives is somewhat speculative. It was possibly purchased in Pakistan, exactly when it is unknown. The wheel, however, is in good condition, despite the silver coating being a little tarnished and the handle slightly loose. So, whilst it is predicted that prayer wheels have been used for at least 6 centuries, I suspect that due to its good condition, and comparing it to others that have been preserved in museums, it is likely to be at most 100 years old. I was intrigued to learn that prayer wheels are universal in Buddhist culture, yet there is so little Tibetan literature that examines their purpose or existence. For many years, there has been silence in Tibetan literature on a practice so widespread, which could well be as a result of the prayer wheel being so interwoven into Tibetan culture. It may have hardly occurred to Tibetans to question its origins and purpose. Western commentators have largely ignored prayer wheels too, Dan Martin's 1987 work being the first comprehensive study of prayer wheels in English. This is probably due to the fact that the Orient and its art was a mystery to the West for centuries upon centuries. So, does the prayer wheel's design reflect any key principles of Buddhism? Virtually all Tibetan art is religious in purpose, primarily because many artists and craftspeople worked for monasteries and temples. Even today, prayer wheels typically possess intricate designs to transform the mundane raw materials into living realities. I decided to compare the photographs of my prayer wheels to those found in the Victoria and Albert collection. The inscriptions on the V&A's prayer wheels are virtually identical to the inscription found on my wheel, meaning that on my prayer wheel is inscribed the common mantra, the Mani. Om Mani Padme Hum is a 6-syllable mantra that has been described in Tibetan literature as the essence of all happiness, prosperity and knowledge, and the great means of liberation. On the bottom of my prayer wheel is a beautiful lotus flower. Symbols are often used in Tibetan art as substitutes for aspects of Buddhahood. The lotus flower is associated with divinity throughout the Oriental world, connecting the flower's purity and perfection with divine birth and the emancipation of Buddhahood. In fact, Mani prayer that is found written on the outside of my prayer wheel translates to "Hail to the jewel in the lotus." Finally, the wheel contains 3 turquoise stones which are found on each side of the wheel. Because the objects are for sacred purposes, they are often covered in precious metals such as gold or silver and are encrusted or inlaid with turquoise and crystals. The key theme of my podcast has been one of mystery, in the sense that this object is so prevalent even today, but actually very little is known about it in terms of its provenance and origins. I have certainly tried my best to uncover the truth, but like many other commentators, I'm left desperate for answers. My travels through India sparked my interest in prayer wheels, but throughout this project I have fallen even more in love with these remarkable objects, particularly their history and their spiritual purpose. Unsurprisingly, the Reuben Museum featured prayer wheels in a 2019 exhibition, using them as a metaphor for the power to create positive change. I find their message exceptionally inspiring.